Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hey, Maisha.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
We're joined by a special guest this morning. My son Jacob is here. Jacob, do you want to say hi to everyone? Hey, you want to say hi? It's homesick, so I'm on daddy duty today. I'm going to give everyone some time to stroll in. I see we already have a lot of people online, which is really nice. Rahul, nice to
Yes.
see you again. And Ronla, nice to see you guys. Feel free to. Oh, Jacob, Anne said hi. Can you say hi, Anne? Feel free to post in the chat where you're dialing in from. Always interesting to see where people are joining us from around the world. Thanks, Rahul. I figured it would go over nice on customer day to have some family join us.
It's
Awesome.
community day after all.
There you go. I love it. So let's get going. I know we have a really exciting session today. I'm super excited to be hosting today's session. Just got off another fantastic one with Paul and Catherine. So the excitement continues today. My name is Chris. I'm joined with Jacob and Maisha, and we're going to be continuing today's session for Customer Day. Some housekeeping quickly that I want to go over as soon as I get my slide to move. There you go. I promise all sessions are being recorded. All sessions will be provided to you after slides as well. You're also going to get a certificate of attendance for the sessions that you've attended during TMF week, so you can show that off to your friends and colleagues. We have a Q&A. For the purposes of today's demo, we're going to keep the Q&A till the end. But obviously, as Jacob wants to go down, obviously feel free to post in the Q&A section, not the live chat, if you can, and we'll address those at the end, Maisha and myself, and then it's going to be a networking break shortly after today's session. We have about a 30 to 45 minute presentation set up with Maisha today, and like I said, Q&A after. And then I'll quickly introduce the next session and the networking break. But without further ado, we are going to be talking about implementing a risk-based QC workflow. And on that, Maisha, I'm going to hand it off to you. You can start sharing your screen and we can jump right in.
Thank you so much, Chris. So I'll start by presenting my screen. If you could just let me know, Chris, once you can see it.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second. And you should be good to go.
All right. Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on implementing a risk-based QC workflow for documents in eTMF Connect. It's great to see some familiar faces, or rather names, I should say, in the audience. But for anyone who I may not have had the pleasure of meeting already, my name is Maisha Rahim. I'm the head of customer success here at Montrium. I've been with Montrium for over 5 years now, and I work in the customer experience team to oversee the implementation of our solutions as well as post-go live support. I'm thrilled to be leading today's session where we will be starting with an introduction to document QC, followed by a walkthrough of the available QC options in eTMF Connect, how to set up the workflows in the system, as well as a preview of performing the QC tasks in the new Navigator. So let's start with the introduction to quality checks of documents in your trial master file. Now, when it comes to your trial master file, we should be looking at it from 3 different perspectives for the TMF to be inspection ready. The 3 different perspectives are quality, completeness, and timeliness. And when we're looking at quality, we are looking to understand if the TMF is of sufficient quality to understand the story of your clinical trial. When we're looking at completeness, we're looking at whether the TMF contains all the information needed to tell that story in full. And finally, when we're looking at timeliness, we're looking at whether the information was provided to the TMF in a timely manner, right? So all three of these pillars of your TMF need to be fulfilled for the TMF to be inspection ready and to tell a complete and accurate story of your trial. And today we will be focusing on the quality side of things. So to ensure you have a good quality TMF, you would be performing quality checks, and these quality checks could be at different levels. First, you may have your quality check of the trial master file as a whole, where you are taking a more holistic approach to perform the QC on the TMF by looking at maybe the TMF as a whole or a specific chapter or process zone or maybe a specific site. Then you have the QC of your individual documents or artifacts which are being filed in your trial master file. And when we're looking at quality of your specific documents, you want to make sure each and every single document is of good quality so that it contributes to telling a good quality, accurate story. So we're looking at the quality of the documents, and essentially we want to confirm that the document meets the quality criteria that you may have set in place as a part of your processes. And as a part of your document QC, there are a few different things that you might be wanting to check to ensure the good quality of your documents. Firstly, here we have your content quality, and for that you would be performing a content QC on your documents. And this is where we are checking the document for content. We're checking to see that the document should be part of the trial master file. It is relevant and meaningful for the TMF of this study. And how do you know if the document is relevant for the study? You can leverage the TMF document content QC resources that are available to you, including your ICH GCP list of essential documents. You have your TMF reference model, which is a comprehensive list of your expected documents, including the definitions and purposes of each document types, along with milestones at which you might expect them. And along with the TMF reference model and the ICH essential documents list, ideally based on your internal company procedures and your study design, you would develop your study specific your study index that you can then leverage as a guideline against which you would be able to perform your QC for content. Next, you have your document QC for non-content. So when we're performing a non-content document QC, we are checking to see if that document is aligned with the quality criteria that we have in place, and that the document is compliant with that quality criteria. So based on your internal processes, you might be checking to see if the document meets ALCOA, RUTOLA, good documentation practices, which are a crucial component of your GMP compliance, and these practices would be mandatory to ensure that your documentation meet the industry standards. So this is what you would be checking for essentially when you're looking at these documents as a part of your non-content QC. And finally, for your documents that have gone through scanning, you might be performing post-scan QCs. So here we're looking to see that the document is accurate and is the same and contains all the information as the paper document. So you want to confirm the scanned document is an exact replica. There are no missing pages. All images in the document can be read correctly. The document was scanned with the correct page size, etc. All right, so here you have sort of the different types of document QCs that you might be performing as a part of your QC process. And we know that we need to perform the document QCs, and we know what to look for while performing the document QCs, but how do we go about doing this? Do we QC all TMF documents? Do we use the same process for all artifacts? Our recommendation here, and actually the recommendation based on guidances from the regulators, is to use a risk-based approach. Now, in the next session today, which will be led by Donatella, Donatella will be going through a lot more detail about, the risk-based approach for TMF management. And I highly recommend joining that session. It's jam-packed with really good content. But for now, in short, to summarize it, it's when it comes down to document QC, a risk-based approach would involve determining which documents or artifacts pose a higher risk to patient safety and data integrity, and really then focusing more so on those documents, maybe in the form of secondary QCs or additional QCs, for example. All right, so how would you go about doing this? You could do a risk scoring exercise where you take a look at your TMF index and determine which artifacts pose a higher risk to patient safety and data integrity. So there's really no one size fits all listing of how your higher risk artifacts, and you have to do this exercise based on the specifics of your study and your procedures. If you're interested in learning more about how to assign the risk scoring, Montreal's eTMF services does provide trainings and workshops, and we really go into the detail of sort of performing this exercise for a specific study. But the overall idea is that you determine the risk associated to your different document types, and then you can determine the QC processes that would be applicable to the different artifacts based on that risk. As an example, you can see on the table here, we have an investigator's newsletter, which may be considered a lower risk artifact because it perhaps does not have the same implications in terms of risk to patient safety and data integrity. And so when we file this document in our TMF, it may be sufficient to have only one primary QC, which may be the baseline for all document types in your trial master file. On the other hand, you may have other document types like your monitoring visit reports or your study protocols, for example, that can be deemed to be higher risk documents, and that may require additional QC steps on top of the primary QC step that's applicable to all your artifacts. So these processes will need to be determined and set up for your specific study based on your study design, your company processes, etc. And once you perform the QC, you have to ensure that the fact that you've performed the QC is being documented correctly. So let's talk about the document QC evidence and how you can record that the QC has been done on the documents that are in your TMF. Obviously, it's very important to record the QC evidence, and you should have procedures in place to say that you are doing the QC on your documents. You should mention how you're recording that QC and proving that the documents have gone through that process, and that you have recorded the outcome of the QC. If you are working with a paper process and you have a paper TMF, typically you would be capturing that QC or capturing the fact that the QC was performed in an external QC tracker. So in this tracker, you would be detailing which documents have passed the QC, which may have not passed the QC, and what were the findings or issues found during that QC process, and even how you went about resolving those issues. In an eTMF system, on the other hand, there is less of a need for an external QC tracker to capture the fact that the QC was performed, because we can leverage the eTMF system to take the document through a formal QC process or a QC workflow where the eTMF system will capture that the QC has taken place. It will capture what the outcome was and any findings resulting from that QC step. Okay, so similarly in eTMF Connect, we can also set up these QC workflows in advance, and we will take a look at that over the rest of this session. But before I do that, I do want to mention that because we are focusing on the document QC process in eTMF Connect, I won't be presenting the review and approval workflows that are available for your documents in the system. And so if you are interested in taking a look at those workflows, if you want to start a document from a template or apply electronic signatures or perform document revisions, let's say, then please do let me know in the chat, especially for ideas for our next community sessions that we currently have going on a bi-monthly basis. We can set that up for sure. All right, so assuming that you are using eTMF Connect as a passive eTMF and you are not authoring, reviewing, or approving documents in the system, but rather you have rather you are uploading the documents that were prepared outside the system, and you just need a primary QC set up. You can use what we call the inbound QC step, which can be set up for all document types, and this will be the only QC performed for your lower risk documents. All right, so taking that newsletter as an example again, once you upload the document, perhaps it will go through this inbound QC step to ensure that it has been filed in the correct location, the document is TMF relevant, and it's not a duplicate document, for example. And once it passes this QC step, it becomes a final record in your study eTMF. All right. On the other hand, for document types that you may deem to be a higher risk artifact, such as your monitoring visit reports, we would recommend you have a secondary QC set up with the post-approval QC process. And what this looks like in terms of the full process might differ from one organization to another. So for example, if you are a sponsor with a CRO uploading the documents to your TMF, then this process might look like the document upload being completed, let's say, by a CRO user, and the first QC or inbound QC being performed by a different CRO user perhaps, and then the post-approval QC being performed by a member of the sponsor team. So that's just one example of how you can set this up in the system. And what we will take a look at next is how you can predefine these workflows for your different artifacts in eTMF Connect, and then take a look at what that process looks like in our new Navigator. So with that, I'll switch over to the screen showing the file plan in our system. This file plan is essentially a listing of all of the different document types that are available within eTMF Connect. And this is where your super users and application managers can come in and essentially define or configure the workflow steps that would be relevant for your specific document types or artifacts. So scrolling through here, if we take a look at your investigators newsletter, for example, we can go ahead and click on the little edit icon to pull up the form where we can define the workflows for this document type. And in the workflow steps section, you can see that we can say for this document type, perhaps we just want that inbound record QC step. We don't need any approval steps or any other reviews or secondary QCs, because this document is a low risk document. Once we upload it, it will go through the inbound record QC step before it becomes a final record in the system. So with that, we can click on the submit button to save those changes and set up that workflow for your newsletter. I do want to mention that if you decide that, for example, for all of your document types in the file plan, you want to have the inbound record QC step switched on, you can always reach out to Montreal support and we can help sort of bulk upload or bulk change the settings for all document types to have that inbound records QC step enabled for all document types. And then you can go in for your document types that are deemed to be of higher risk. And for those, you can go in and click on the edit icon and set up those document types with the secondary QC step. So in this case, for example, if we take a look at the monitoring visit report, in the workflow steps section, we have not only the inbound QC steps switched on for this document type, but also we have the post-approval QC step set up in this case. Okay, so Once you upload a document and assign it to the document type of monitoring visit report, it will go through both that inbound record QC step as well as the post-approval QC step that's been set up in your file plan. And we'll take a look at what that process looks like in the system through the new Navigator, which we'll switch to over here. All right, so this is the new Navigator for the study Prod A 101 that you can see on the top here. From here, we can upload the documents in a number of different ways. For example, we can drag and drop the document on top of the study, the country, and or the site. So let's go ahead and upload a document first. Perhaps the first document we upload can be a medical license. So let's go ahead and upload this medical license on top of this specific site. And while the system uploads that document, just a quick reminder that you can also upload the document by drag and drop onto the TMF reference model. If you toggle to the TMF reference model here, to the study, country, or site level, as we just mentioned, or directly to the staging area, which is where any document you upload will live until you have indexed the document and filed it into your study. All right, so here's the medical license we just uploaded. If we go ahead and click on edit properties here now, well, we can go ahead and assign the metadata of that document or index that document. So in this case, this document is a medical license. So I'll just go ahead and assign the document type here. And you can see you have a preview of the document on the right-hand side. So based on this, you can go ahead and define some of the additional metadata. A lot of the metadata is pre-filled based on the fact that we dropped the document on top of the site 1056. So you can see the country and site metadata is already assigned. We can assign this a revision number, perhaps a document owner. And if you want, we can assign, let's say, an expiry date as well. So let's say we choose a date here for the expiration for this document. Once you have assigned all of the metadata, you can click on the Save button on the top right-hand corner, and that will save all of your changes. And when you're ready, you can file the document in your study. And essentially what this will do is it will move the document from the staging area and make it show up in your Navigator for the study. And your document owner will be notified that the document has been assigned to that. All right. While we wait for that document to show up in the new Navigator, I just wanted to quickly show you the file plan for the medical license, just so that we can see how we had predefined the workflow for this document type. So you can see here, we had inbound record QC switched on, post-approval QC switched off, and all other reviews and approvals switched on. So this document has been set up as one of the lower risk document types or artifacts in our file plan, meaning it'll go through just that one inbound record QC step. Okay, so once the document has been filed in the study, it will show up in your artifacts table down here. And your document owner will receive a notification letting them know that the document has been uploaded and has been assigned to them. So that will look like this notification we have here saying that the document has been assigned to you. If we click on this notification, you can see we have that document appearing. You can take a look at all of the metadata that has been assigned to the document. You have a preview of the document here as well, which is just loading right now. And so you can take a look at the document content. And then you can move over to the timeline section, which is something that might be new for some of you. I know that Chris has demoed this in earlier sessions this week as well, so you might have seen it there. I know some of our customers have seen this in their training environment, and if you are interested in having this switched on in your training environment, please do let us know. We'll be happy to set up a one-on-one session with you to go over this in your training environment. But essentially, here in the document timeline, you can see the details that of the activities that have happened on the document already, as well as what's coming up next for that document. So you can see this document was uploaded by this user at this time. There was a metadata update, and then the staged document was filed so that the system created the artifact in your study. Now, up next, you have that inbound record QC step that was defined in the file plan for this document type, so that we can go ahead and assign the assignees for who will be performing that inbound record QC. We can go ahead and save the assignees. You can change the duration if you would like. This will be setting the task duration for the inbound record QC task. And then we'll go ahead and start the collaboration so that this assignee or assignees will receive the task to go ahead and perform the QC of this medical license. All right, so now coming in as an assignee of the QC task, I'll see a notification pop up on the top right-hand corner here, and I'll see a task assigned to me saying document QC. So from here, I can click on my task. And again, you have a preview of the document, you have the timeline and the metadata, so you can review all of this information here. You can then determine the outcome of your task. So either you accept the document or you reject the document. If you select reject here, you do have to provide a reason for rejection. So perhaps the document itself is not eTMF appropriate. Perhaps this is a duplicate document that was uploaded and it already existed in the system. Maybe it's missing a signature, maybe it's not legible, or maybe it was incorrectly indexed into the wrong document, to the wrong document type. Maybe there are multiple documents in one scan, or you can select other, in which case you can type out your reason for rejection here to detail out the issue that you found in this document. For the purposes of the demo, I'll go ahead and accept the document for now, but I believe I do have a document that was rejected already in the system, so we can go ahead and take a look at that as well in terms of what happens when you reject a document at the QC step. All right. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at a document type that's been defined as a higher risk document. And let's take a look at the workflow process that those documents would go through. So in this case, again, let's upload a document to our site. Perhaps this time we can upload a monitoring visit report. So we'll drag and drop the document onto the specific site. Once the upload is completed, we can go ahead and index the file to assign all of the relevant metadata, as well as take a look at the document preview to make sure this is the document we want to upload. So this is a monitoring visit report. All right, again, metadata, some metadata has been pre-populated based on where you uploaded the file. You have the preview of the document coming up on the right-hand side. You can specify a revision number for the document owner, and then additional metadata down here as you deem necessary. Okay, once you've assigned the properties or metadata of the document, again, you can click save, and then you can file the document in your study. And for this document type, which is a monitoring visit report, if we take a look at the file plan, we'd actually seen this already a little bit earlier on. You can see that in the file plan, you have not only the inbound record QC step switched on, but also a post-approval QC required step. All right, so coming back to our Navigator, you can see as the document owner, again, I have the notification that the document has been uploaded for this monitoring visit report. I can go into the timeline of the document, and now instead of just one inbound record QC step, I can see we have the inbound record QC as well as post-approval QC steps assigned for this document. So again, for the purposes of demo, I'm assigning myself as the assignees, but as you might imagine, this is where you might have different individuals performing the different QC steps that you have defined in your collaboration process, so that as you start the collaboration, first the assignees of the inbound record QC step will receive their task. You'll be able to go in and click on the task to perform your QC. So again, checking the metadata and preview, you can decide to approve or reject the document. And while I go ahead and accept this document, we can go ahead and take a look at what would happen if we rejected that document instead. Okay, so if I go through my notifications, I believe I have a notification for a document that was rejected, and you can see that here. So if the document is rejected, then your document owner will receive a notification that looks like this, saying that the document that was assigned to you has been rejected. And when you click on the notification, it'll bring you to the document. You can take a look at the properties and the document content itself. Do a check of what was uploaded, and then from the timeline you can see exactly at which step the document was rejected. So in this case, you can see the document got rejected at the inbound record QC step, and if you drill down onto that step, you can see who rejected the document, when they rejected the document, and why. So you have in the outcome here the reason for rejection as well. In this case, the document was rejected because it's a duplicate document. So as the document owner, I can then go ahead and take the necessary action. So for example, if you want to go ahead and delete the document because it's a duplicate document, you can do so. If you want to correct the document, maybe re-upload the correct document and send it back for another round of the inbound record QC, you can do so as well. Okay, and once your document has completed all of the QC steps, so just coming back to that monitoring visit report, you'll see for the post-approval QC, I will have received a task for that monitoring visit report as well. So I can go ahead and accept that and confirm and close, so that that monitoring visit report will have completed the full document collaboration process that had been set up for it, and it will become a final document as indicated by the green color associated to it. So the green colors associated to your documents indicate that the document is final, and the yellows are your incomplete documents that are still going through the document collaboration process. So in this case, if we take a look at this monitoring visit report and check the properties of the document, you can go into the timeline of the document and you will notice the document timeline with all of the steps completed. You can see all of the steps that this document went through in the system, including that inbound record QC, as well as that post-approval QC, including the outcomes of each step, the details of who performed each step and when. And one thing I did not mention for each of these steps is you also receive an email notification, of course, in as the assignee for each of these steps, so you know that you have the task assigned, in addition to the task showing up on your task list on the top right-hand corner. All right. In addition to sort of QCing the document as a part of the document collaboration process, you might also, perform an overall TMF QC and find certain issues with documents that have already gone through the QC process and that are already final in the system. In such a case, you are able to start a revision process on the document. So we won't cover that in too much detail today, but just to show you very quickly, you have the option to click on a final green document and then click on the revision request button that becomes available to you here. which will then start the revision request on your document. You can provide a revision rationale, the revision description, and all of this is required for your final document to go through that formal revision process. And then you can go ahead and either update the metadata as needed or upload a new version of the document, and then file that as final as needed. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and cancel the revision process here. That is actually all that I wanted to show you in terms of quick training in the system on performing QCs on your document. Were there any questions? I'll just do a quick check. Sorry, I wasn't really monitoring the Q&A section. Okay, we have a quick question here about sort of the version history and version updates, how you can check that. And you can definitely do that through the timeline of your document. So for each document, even after it becomes a final document, you'll be able to go into the View Properties button and check the timeline. You have the full timeline of all of the different steps, including, if your document went through a revision, you would be able to see the upload or changes to the new revision of that document. All right. It doesn't look like we have very many other questions. Anything else that I might have missed, Chris? Oh, Chris, we can't hear you. You might be on mute. It looks like Chris is unmuting himself on his side. But if there are any other questions that come up as you go through the presentation, maybe afterwards, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to answer any questions, dive a little bit deeper on any of the functionality that you might have seen, and yeah, go into more details as needed. Chris, I think you are unmuted now.
Yes, a few times this week it's changed the microphone settings on me, and I've had to scramble to go and change the microphone setting. I'm gonna blame it on my son. He doesn't know, right?
You can't do that. That's not acceptable.
If you want to stop sharing your screen for one quick second, Maisha, I'm just gonna bring up last little bit. But thank you so much for taking us through that. Always great hearing you present the system, as echoed by, I think it was Roxanne in the chat said that she's going to use this video for training. So great listening to you present. I always learn something, and I learned something today. So I didn't even know that you could drag and drop into the TMF reference model on the left-hand side. See, so there you go. I learned something. Awesome. Was there any other questions quickly before? Oh, I do see one from Cheryl. What if I do not see the revision request option when I click on a document? How do I fix that?
So the reason why you might not be seeing that right now, and that's a great question, Cheryl, coming from one of our existing users in the system, is the tasks and timeline feature is not necessarily switched on in the production environment for all of our customers. So this is something, if you are interested in seeing this switched on perhaps in your training environment first, we can definitely set that up. So please reach out to your product specialist, Cheryl. I'll definitely be reaching out to you after this session to see whether we can switch this on in your training environment. And the reason why we haven't switched it on in every client environment already is because we are bringing tasks into the new Navigator using an iterative approach. So we already have all of the QC steps, as you have seen. We have, your approvals with electronic approvals or signatures in the system. But there are some things that are still left to that are still in the classic experience that we haven't really brought on over, such as your PDF conversion process. So we haven't sort of made the full switch over, but we do have some clients who are using tasks in the new Navigator already in their production environment as well, especially clients who do not require the PDF conversion functionality in the system at this time. So definitely we can talk about it. Please reach out to your product specialist if you're interested in having this switched on in your training environment, so you can play around with it first before we can decide whether or not you're ready to have it switched on in your production environment. Sorry, that was a long answer. Oh, Chris, I think that happened again with the audio.
This time I was on mute. I was just typing away to Rahul there. He said this was the best live demo session. I put a heart there. I heard it, but I gave a few live demo sessions, so I don't know how I feel about that comment. I'll let it slide because Maisha's a superstar. Awesome. Were there any other questions in the chat, Maisha, that you saw?
Ralph said I must have had a lot of practice. Yes, I did. So yes, no other questions as we can see. But like I said, if there are any other questions that come up or that you can think of, please don't hesitate to reach out. What I forgot to put was a slide with my email. But Chris, I don't know if we can send that with a follow-up.
Yeah, you can post it in the chat as well, if you want to.
I will do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, I guess we'll give everyone back a little bit of time today. Again, Maisha, thank you so much. Always a pleasure hearing you present. Our next session at 11 a.m. is going to be with Donatella Ballerini about designing an agile approach to TMF for inspection readiness. And last but not least, as my son is pulling me away, I don't have the slide here, but again, guys, if you are giving us any feedback, obviously we're having that draw for those amazing Converse with the I Love TMF on them. So please continue interacting with us there for a chance to win. And on that, Maisha, thank you so much. Again, always a pleasure. And
thank you, everyone.
Please feel free to reach out to anyone on the team and we'll be able to answer it. Take care.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Chris, for hosting.
Thank you.